Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Research in Focus webinar for the Journal of the Operational Research Society. This is a new webinar series where we invite our authors to introduce their work that has recently been published in the Journal of the Operational Research Society, and also share their tips for authors aspiring to publish in the same journal. It is organized by the Operational Research Society, and I'm Emel Aktas from Cranfield University, your host today, the person behind the initiative. I will be hosting a few of these going forward. So this webinar's topic is the paper Enhancing Systemic Thinking by Sharing Experiences of Reading Literary Fiction Using Causal Mapping. We have the authors Leila Abouabara and Alberto Polcar here with us, and they are going to present their work. If you have any questions about the work being presented, please put it in the chat. We also have some time towards the end for verbal questioning as well, but if it is right in your mind, put it in the chat. I will keep an eye on what's being asked and introduce the question to our authors. Alberto, may I invite you to share your work with us? Thank you so much for this webinar and your availability.
Well, good morning to everybody, and many thanks for attending to this webinar, and many thanks to the organizers as well to invite us to talk about our paper. My name is Alberto Paucar, and I am one of the 4 authors of this paper. And today, Leila and I are sharing the presentation, and I'm going to talk for the first, say, 10 minutes, and then Leila will take over, and I'll join her at the end for the questions. Next, please, Leila. Right. So this is the title of the paper, Enhancing Systemic Thinking by Sharing Experiences of Reading Literary Fiction Using Causal Mapping. So as you can see, it's really a paper that involves more than one discipline, OR and also humanities, if you like, or literature fiction. Next, please. So this is the agenda. I'm trying to cover the 7 points today, and I'm going to talk for the first. I'm going to talk about the first items here, 1, 2, and 3, and then leave Leila to continue. So first of all, I'm going to start just talking very briefly about the motivation to write the paper, and then again a very brief review of the interlink between humanities and science as we see it for the paper, and then we're going to sketch the research questions and objectives of the paper, and leave for Leila to explain how we apply our approach, how we apply these 2 areas of reading fiction and causal mapping using a particular type of experience, which is called reading labs, that was developed in Brazil. And the methodology, or the application rather, is going to be using a book that happens that the group was reading at that point, the Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. And then Leila is also going to highlight some of the results and conclusions and feedback from the group, and hopefully we will have time for questions. Next. So the motivation behind the paper, I think, has to be explained a bit. Essentially, the research team, the 4 writers or authors behind the paper, share similar experiences. We have a background in hard systems thinking, especially Leila and I. We come from an engineering point of view, but lately we have we've been interested in soft OR, PSM, and in particular, in my case, soft system methodologies and systems thinking. And the other common theme, I would say, is that we are reasonable, constant readers of fiction. So we like reading fiction, poetry, but more than that, I think fiction. And a more practical motivation to write this paper is that in our interventions, in our practice as a systems, as an operational researchers, we always find difficult in implementing the result of an intervention when the change of perspectives are needed. So this is something that we all experience. And this is a great quote from Churchman, a systems thinking, an American systems thinker who's been very influential on shaping the movement of PSM in the UK. And he says the systems approach begins when we try to see the world through the eyes of the others. Something very easy to say, but difficult to do in practice. Next. Right. I just going to talk very briefly about this part of it's a paper by Churchman in which he tells the story of some students who quiz their famous mathematician professor and presented him with this series. So 32, 38, 44, 48, 56, and 60, and asked the professor for the next number. And also they say that the properties of this sequence are very well known. And this is very well explained by Churchman in his paper. And so the professor has to suggest or say which is the next number. And the mathematician, the professor, fails to do this. And he tries with a very complicated polynomial, but at the end he gave up. He said, "I cannot do this." And next, please. And in the paper, the answer to this, and you probably not noticed, but the last number in the series in the previous email, in the previous slide, was 60. So the answer for this problem is Meadowlark, which is the next stop on the city subway after the 60th Street. So this is in America. So the students say to the professor, well, the problem was fair because you knew this road, you travel on the subway every day. And so what Churchman is trying to make here, he say that if we are bound to a Weltanschauung, a way of seeing the world in our terms, it doesn't matter how much information we gather. We need to change. We need to expand our perspective and possibly change our perspective, and then go for the right answer to the problem. So, in a way, we are trying to do this through in the paper. We argue that by reading fiction, we will try to expand our perspectives. Next, please. In the paper, we go through through this, the relationship between humanities and science, and this is just a very some major points about it. Essentially, until the 17th century, the division between fields wasn't clear. It wasn't really, there was no silos or boundaries. And there are some examples there, and especially in the Renaissance, there was a mix between science and humanities. We know that. But there's in the paper we outline some beautiful examples of scientists who also try to enter into art, and very successfully. And this is in the case of Galileo, who discovered some moons in 1609, but also he painted that, and they are beautiful pictures. That reference is in a book by an Argentinian physicist called Alberto Rojo, and he prints in the book. You can see the pictures from Galileo. So there are examples, and we think that it is possible to navigate between fields. Next, please. Now, more recently, as I said, it's also there are examples in which some writers have mixed their prose with mathematical readings. The case of Borges, this Argentinian writer, who was very, very knowledgeable in mathematics. He uses his prose to develop and to inquire and to reflect on those areas. There's other two examples there. Sabato, famous nuclear physicist before becoming a writer, and also another Chilean poet who is also a physicist. But essentially, what we're trying to say here is that both literature and science are manifestations of creativity, and it's possible to not to mix, but to travel from one field to another in order to expand our perspectives. Next, please. So in the paper, we set up 3 research questions. First of all, we try to explore, not in detail, because this is a very wide theme, what is the relationship between humanities and science, especially for the work that we do. And then, more importantly, can the reading and discussing literature enhance systemic capabilities, in the sense that if we can maybe move or change from one perspective to another. And the third research question is, can the soft OR practice benefit from causal mapping when we experience a reading, and when we talk about a book? Can we explore these subjectivities and trying to give it a sort of a structure, and then going back to the readers and say, yes, I can learn. I learn from this experiment, and I also learn from what other people say about a particular book. Next, please. This is just to reiterate what I said before. There is a possibility of moving from one field to another. Essentially, we make the case in the paper that books of fiction really convey or try to express what human life is. All the problems, all the dreams, the frustrations that we have, they are in many ways condensed in a good piece of fiction. Next, please. Just move to the next one, Leila, please, because I think I need to write. Right, so this is just an example of some books. And it happens that the reading group that Leila is going to explain, they try to be quite wide on their reading. And what we're trying to say here is that the books really reflect, in a way, in many ways, whatever we are experiencing at that particular moment, or maybe in the past, or in the future. These are three examples: McEwan, 2 books from McEwan, and then a book by a Brazilian writer. But as you can see, just the themes. This is just one way of pointing out what they encompass in their story. Stories or problems between friends, family crisis, problems of married life, etc. So there's a huge range of human affairs. Next, please. And just as a quote here by Obama, and as you can see, really it makes the point of what we try to say in the paper, that through reading we can expand our perspectives, and we can try to see a situation through the eyes or through the feelings of others. Because when we read, we have to put ourselves in the shoes of the character. Next, please. And this is a quote I like, and it's quoted in the paper, and it's by by Philip Roth, the great American writer. And he says, I read fiction to be freed from my own suffocating, narrow perspective on life. And I think when we read without a prejudice, and when we read not above a book, as some people say, if you read below a book, meaning if you live in the book and try not to superimpose your feelings and try to understand the characters, that really help us to expand our perspectives. Next, please. So this is the objective of the paper, and essentially we try to mix 2 methodologies, if you like. You can probably fit the paper in the area of multi-methodology, which is the area of OR that has quite a good followers now, and that we try to mix a sort of software. Leila will explain these reading labs and causal mapping, which is a method used by in various PSMs. And the result of that, we hope that it will enhance the systemic capabilities of the reader. So I'm going to stop there, and Leila is going to continue with the methodology that we use in the paper and the application. Okay, thank you. Leila?
Leila, you are muted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. Can you see my presentation now?
Not yet. Yeah, go to your presentation.
Okay, great.
Excellent.
Basically, thank you. Basically, the methodology consists in joining a reading program, a completely reading program, and after, by using information from this reading program, we would build a causal mapping, and after returning the results to the participants. Because the causal mapping here is used as a way of getting aware of the learning process. But reading programs, what are reading programs? This has other labels like reading groups, reading clubs, book clubs. They are a group of people who read the same book and dedicate some time to discuss them together and informally. So this is a definition of a Collins dictionary. And some publishers like Penguin used to offer tips and the questions to guide such discussions. And recently in their website, I found the ultimate list of book club questions, which includes some very interesting questions like who do you invite for a dinner? Which character would you invite? In the literature, there are many reported reading programs with different designs and different purposes. Here we have three of them. In the professional environment, it is an affordable way for professional development. They use the scholarly literature. So instead of sending people to conferences, which is maybe expensive and waste some time, here they can put more people together studying some specific issue. In the therapeutic environment, it's a way to eliminate psychological barriers and promote social safety and trust in relationships in trauma victims. And in the academic environment, it's a way to encourage debate of humanistic topics amongst students of the medical field, which is considered a very technical scientific information. The reading program that we are going to use in this research is called the Reading Lab. Why lab? Because it was originated from educational activities in the School of Health Science at the Federal University of São Paulo in Brazil. So medical students has labs, and when there is a book in the lab, it's a reading lab. The main purpose of this reading program was to make healthcare professionals more sensitive to abstract and concrete human pains when they take care of their patients. Currently, this is an academic discipline also open to the community. So we have medical doctor students with other people from the community as well. Basically, I'm explaining the dynamics of this reading lab. you needed to to read the book. It's an essentially solitary and subjective experience. And we have three sorts of meeting. The first meeting is called the reading stories. It's when we starting telling your how was your reading, if you like, if you enjoyed. After the intermediate meetings are discussing parts of the book, and we have a last meeting which is more conclusive, called Stories for Living. We also had a coordinator in the reading labs. The fourth author was the coordinator of the report, the reading lab of this article. And there are some questions to guide each of the meetings. Sometimes some people ask what's the difference between this reading lab for a regular book club. And we say that we have a methodology to follow, so it was designed for a purpose. We have the rereading process. This is a very powerful way of making discovery, the rereading a book. There is, in the last meeting, a written report. It's something very informal and not academic. It's a personal report. And the book, the story of the book is not the focus. We don't have an academic perspective. We use the context of the book to make our discussions. And the causal mapping. Here, causal mapping that we used as a method for increasing awareness of such learning. The causal map that we used here is the mapping from SODA methodology, which there is used for negotiating. And here we use the social process is already in the reading lab. We use it to make transparent the subjectivity of the participants' statements, to bring sense to the experiences, and to make and also because the causal maps make the process transparent to the participant, the objective transparent. Why? Because we are using their words to build the map, not my words, their words. And this is the only way of making this awareness. No, we saw reported other ways of evaluating a reading program. And some examples include a pre and post reading group quiz and a web-based survey as well. We made, as I told you before, we didn't use the mapping, the causal mapping for negotiating. We made a structural analysis which comes from graph theory and network analysis. So we have objectives in the top of the map. We have dominant constructs with cognitive centrality, which are the high degree ones. We have the strategic options, which are immediate influence on the objectives. We have the implosions, which are major effects or explosions. So in the article, we are going to see details of these constructs. The book that we followed was the picture of Dorian Gray, which was written by Oscar Wilde and published in 1890. Basically, the history is a handsome and rich guy who undergoes moral and physical decay while discovers the social life among the English aristocracy. As long as he makes important choice for his future, his sex appeal and beauty increase. On the other hand, his marvelous portrait, made by a special friend, suffers injuries and becomes ugly and uglier. Oscar Wilde's intention with his unique novel was to criticize the moral and attitudes of the Victorian era. The book also shows how poor and fragile is the character of a society who loves to judge and condemn the ones who do not agree or act accordingly with its false morality. This is a record of this meeting. It took place in 2019. We were 7 women and 3 men. Basically, women read more than men. Our age was between 30 and 60 years old. And we have lawyers, engineers, technician, medical doctor, cuisine chef, teacher. So it's something important to say here that we don't need to be just operational researchers together. No, the different backgrounds, a diverse group is very important to enrich the meeting. So we are going to have involved people from different expertises and experiences. Here, just recapping the methodology, we followed the reading program, and in the last meeting, people reading a report and read it during this meeting, and we're going to use this information to build the causal mapping and after return it to the group. This is a print of some reports, stories for living. Some people typewrite, others write by hand. And this is the map that was produced from that reports. I'm not. There are 57 constructs, 9 objectives, and the yellow one are the dominants. I'm not going to tell a lot of details because I don't have time, but basically the geometry of this map, it doesn't allow us to think about clusters. So we decided to classify each of the construct in a label. And here is an example of the 2 dominant constructs. They are high degree, dominance 5. So, for example, the construct number 14, experience situations from others' perspective. It was classified as empathy. And the other one on the right, do not live by appearances. This is a construct classified as behavior. And others classifications include feelings, self-knowledge, reflection, reading, and acquaintanceship. So this is a statistic about the labels that we attributed. Most of the constructs are related to behavior. So 35% of the constructor. What that means? That the major topic in the map is are references to awakening to the way of acting towards a change in behavior. Second, the reflection, 25% of the constructed. So this is reference to the speculation about issues not considered until then, things that I have never thought about, for instance. And the third, empathy, 40%. This is reference to being sensitive to emotions of fellow people, participants, or even characters. So something that I didn't consider before as well. This is the list of objectives. I'm not going to read all of them because they are in the article, but I would draw your attention to 2 of them. Broaden my vision. Yeah, this is quite related to systems think capability. Yeah, it was one objective reached in the reading program. And the second is provoke reflection on how you want to get old. This is quite related to the context of the book because it talks about getting uglier and older. When we give the feedback to the group, we didn't explain the process of building the map because they are not very familiar to it, but we focus on the results, and they were very receptive to the results. So this receptivity brought sensitivity and perception, that is the rationality and awareness of the process. And this is the true learning. And even being an operational researcher and presenting to operational researchers, this process and this learning is also important to other fields. Sometimes I invite friends and colleagues to participate in the reading labs, and the most common answer is, I don't have time to read. So I finish my speech with a quote from my French writer, my French friend writer, Danielle Pennac, who says, From the moment the problem of time to read arises, it is because there is no will. Time to read is always a stolen time, as well as time to love. Stolen from what, Leila? Let's say from the obligation to live. Time to live, like time to love, delays time to live. And here I call Alberto for his final message.
Okay, thank you, Leila. I think in one of my previous slides, I'd mentioned an Argentinian writer, Jorge Luis Borges, and he is the one who wrote short stories, but the themes were fictions, but also exploration of infinity and with some mathematical reflections. And he is one of the authors that is being quoted quite a lot by scientists, and he's a writer. And I just want to end the presentation with this quote by him, and it's probably similar to one by Umberto Eco, which goes, which says that one of the best inventions is the book, because from all the inventions that the human has done, the book is something different. The book is an extension, not of his body, but it's an extension of memory and imagination. Okay, I'll stop there, and quite happy to answer any questions.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much for this beautiful presentation. It also instigated some reflections on our side as we were listening. I'm just looking at the audience. If you have any questions, you can just raise your hand. We can invite you to share. It doesn't have to be a question. You can share your reflection of the research you have just listened to. And in the meantime, I'll ask you one question. So the participants of the reading lab, how did you identify the participants and what was the recruitment process?
I can answer. As I told you, there is a reading lab is the name for the commercial name. Okay, in the university, it's calling Lab of Humanities. So in the university, it's a discipline, and people make the inscription for the discipline as a usual discipline. There is a limit, I didn't mention before, but there is a limit of 20 people per group, because otherwise there will be people will not be able to participate, yeah, and everybody shall speak. So as it's a discipline, they are offered like for the community, you can make the inscriptions, and for the students, okay, and there are people who repeats the discipline each semester, yeah, because it's a different book. And this reading lab reported in our article was the network of the coordinator. She invited his friends and colleagues, and but we didn't know each other. Sometimes yes, sometimes not. Yeah, but you can participate in the next, Mel.
Yeah, in fact, I'm curious in the sense that, like, how long does it take for the participants, and I don't know, like, what would be the restrictions?
There is no restriction, no. And if the restriction should be not having read the book, but people comes without reading the book as well, yeah, because they like to listen, but it's a good to read. So 30 days before, or when you make the inscription for the discipline for the next semester, the book is already released, the title of the book. And so you go and buy the book or read it electronically. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And can I also ask a little bit about the review process? Like you submitted your work, you received feedback. Can you tell us like how was the feedback and how you have addressed the different types of reviewer comments for audience who may be considering submitting to the Journal of Operational Research Society?
Well, from what I remember, we had to make some changes to the paper because in a way it was unusual in that it tried to mix humanities with science, but we've on the whole I think it was quite well received by the reviewers. Maybe Leila, I think the technical part was needed clarification. I think from what I remember also they say why one particular book, the Oscar Wilde, but I think as I mentioned before, it was just happened that the reading labs, in the reading labs, they were reading that book at that moment. Yeah.
I think reviewers always give us another perspective for the paper. It's tough because they are criticizing our work, but in the end, they are like angels who makes our work better and better. It's fantastic, okay? I suffer, but in the end, it's good. And one thing that I remembering is to not make changes in the paper, but justify this meeting between humanities and science, because it's a paper, a simple paper, and we are using a big umbrella that is not very usual in our area. Yeah, people are thinks always in hardware. Yeah, so we in this specific paper we made more justifications than changes in the paper. But even so, the process of reviewing is always very good to make the paper better and clear to the audience. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I think that's one good advice for people who want to submit to JORS. Always treat the feedbacks as a motivation to improve the paper, and even if the comments are hard, it's better. And I mentioned this to my co-authors and colleagues. It's better to just leave the comments for a while and then go back and try to answer them. But I think it was well received. We have positive comments, and we are very pleased that the paper was published. Yeah.
Okay. My final question is, what's next?
What's next, Alberto?
What's next? Well, in this area where Leila and I are interested in multi-methodology, and in a way, this paper it is about multi-methodology because we mix hard and soft software and CM, and we are that's an area that we want to pursue. We are at the moment working on a paper in an application of a new or a proposed framework in which this multi-methodology is at the center, trying to select methodologies from the hard and soft toolkit, if you like, and in a practical intervention. And so that's next, but also continue reading. I mean, I know that Leila is in this continue reading fiction. I mean, Leila is in this reading labs, and I live near Lancaster, and there is a reading a book club that we meet every month, and I think not only, I mean, this is one also, I think if I can make just a sort of piece of advice, I think fiction helps not only to expand our views, but also helps to relax. I mean, many times I've been tense and sometimes worry about rejections, and we just go back to a book of fiction, and it does help you to see other worlds and try to immerse yourself in other people's lives and learn from it. And I think that applies to everybody, people who have very busy lives. I just remember, I think Churchill, during the Second World War, in the middle of the Battle of Britain, he said that he always went back and read Jane Austen. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, Jane Austen, which is 18th century literature, but that really was a source of not only calm, but also to learn from other people's lives. So I think it's good. It's good to read.
Alberto is also an author, a poem author. Alberto, you have many books.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for your insights this afternoon in the UK. And thank you very much wherever you are, you have attended this webinar. May I just say that if anyone has any follow-up questions or comments, or if they wanted to connect, now they have your paper. It's in public domain. You are welcome to send a message to our authors. And if you have some suggestions about these webinar series going forward, I am very happy to receive any of your suggestions. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amel.
Brilliant work. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.